All right, everybody sitting comfortably. It's already afternoon, so it's a long day again today, but I think we are over halfway there. So, I'm Sami Ekblad from Vaadin. I'm here today to talk about Vaadin TouchKit development, give an introduction to that one. There's been already a couple of Vaadin presentations before this. Is there someone who didn't attend any of these Vaadin introduction or hybrid application? So a couple of people. So I'm going to give an introduction to Vaadin TouchKit, what it is overall, and try to answer the question and when should I use it? When is it a good approach? So you have heard all the different mobile application strategies, and this is one more, or one of those. Actually, in the end, let's try to do actually something so you can get an idea how the code looks like and how it works. But let's start with the reindeer. So. You already knew this because you were in the previous sessions. So Vaadin is a reindeer, and it's a framework to abstracting the web development, so that you can use only Java instead of the HTML. Forget about the web altogether. Just use components to build up the web UI. And its main purpose is for Java EE applications. You have big systems, component-oriented user interfaces. They are very easy. They are very usable there. And the reason is because what's the approach there is. So if you think of any standard Java web application, they have different layers. They sort of layered architecture from the backend to the client side. There's logic on every layer, and when the applications get bigger, this gets more complicated. You have to handle the whole stack there by yourself. That's where Vaadin comes to help. So it actually tries to take away most of the stuff related to the web and communication and to the client side. So you can only focus on the business logic on the server side, use the server-side APIs to build up the application. Now I'm not sure whether this was shown in the previous session also, but a little bit about the component architecture. So everything in Vaadin is a component. It's a Java class, it's a Java Bojo. Button, tables, trees, they are UI components. They have a counterpart there on the client side, which communicates back and forth with the server, keeps in sync automatically. You don't normally have to worry about it. And that's running on JavaScript engine there. Server side is made with JDK, running on normal JVM there, and the client side is running on JavaScript compiled from Google Web Toolkit, using the Quit compiler to get the JavaScript from Java code. And this is how it actually, on a code level, how it looks like. So, yeah, so those who have used Swing previously or some other component-based Java UI framework know this syntax very closely. So you create text field, you create a button like instantiating an object there, and you attach listeners. So event-based framework, sending and receiving messages there. And this code there runs on the server side. You run on the server side the Java code. What gets to the client is a bootstrap. It's a HTML file, CSS file, images, JavaScript. A fair amount of stuff gets sent to the client side. And if you think about the mobile applications, that's quite a amount of data to send over a mobile networks. So you can optimize this, and it's very easy to actually optimize. So you can compress the data for the, on socket level, and of course you can then reduce the size of the JavaScript actually sent there. So if your application is not using some components, no need to kind of have the implementation there on the client side. And that bootstrap renders the application or the components one by one to the user, and what user sees is a simple application based on your code. Interacting with the application, you can enter text there, put a REST button, it actually sends a AJAX request to the client side, from client to server, which is very small. So now we are talking about a small amount of data. This is good for mobile applications. So we are not sending too much data after the first initial loading. The server code gets executed, so this is the your business logic, very simple in this case, so you're only showing a notification there. And that gets returned to the client. And again, very little of data. So we are not talking about huge amount of data you are passing back and forward with Vaadin, so it's very little. Only the bootstrap is larger, but that's one time, and you can cache that if you want to. So, but what comes out of this is the approach. So we are using the service-driven approach. So we are driving the application from the server side. All the logic lies there on the server side. So how does this go together with the mobile applications? So if you think of the Vaadin TouchKit itself, what does it provide on top of it? Because this was basic Vaadin, so you know everything in Vaadin works the same way. On mobile, it's kind of boils down to the one question, so supporting more devices or more browsers in our sense. So we are still talking about browser applications. So what browsers are we supporting? And now talking more about Vaadin TouchKit 4. So it supports Android, iOS, and Windows Phone. These are the main three platforms it runs on. And in Android, it's pretty old one. We have 2.3 and then upwards, and iOS 5. This doesn't mean that iPhone 5, so I think the iPhone 5 already had iOS 5. And on Windows Phone, it's basically bound to IE 10. So when there is IE 10 browser in the Windows device, it's supported by Vaadin TouchKit. Yeah, so then it comes to the real substance, so to speak. So what TouchKit is, in essentially, it is a set of widgets for mobile optimized widgets. So they fit better there to the screen. They provide some device-specific functionality, so you can get more comfortable look and feel with the Vaadin TouchKit components than you would do with the stock Vaadin components there. And you can do the normal navigational styling, which is very typical for mobile applications like swiping and things like this. Just a glimpse of going through a couple of those. So if you take start from the application. So applications, they can be installed on the home screen. So if you want to change the home screen icon, you have clean Java API there on the server side. You can change the home icon, so users can actually access them as more like an application, not like a browser. compensate the loading time you saw there. So you can set a splash screen to the application the same way. So you can apply a loading screen there. And more about the mobile device features like location here. So this is something that really came along with the mobile devices. It's now also on the desktop devices. You can see the location is used quite a lot on desktop browsers, but it was mainly on the browser, mainly on mobile browsers that it first used. So there are good APIs for that one. Responsively, design is kind of built in. So if you're just doing simple rotation or something like that, it's CSS based. So there is nothing you can actually, nothing you need to do there. So you can just build the layout very flexible way, and it adapts to the different screen sizes. But of course, if you need more control there, so if you have something like the completely different layout on different devices or different screen orientation, you can catch that when the screen size changes and make changes to the actual UI structure there. Yeah, so the big thing, offline. So last talk was about hybrid applications, so combining offline and online applications. And I would say these Vaadin TouchKit applications, typically they are hybrid applications. So they are part of the application running their offline and most of the application running online. So you can detect when the application is offline, like you get the message to the user, so we are now offline, and we can still access some of the features in the application. And we can persist the data there locally then, so we can use the local storage to store the data which is manipulated offline. And then when the connection becomes available again, you get the notification out that so you can now connect back to the server and actually go back online and start using the full application and all the features in the application. Typical way is that the whole application is first on the server side, like the Vaadin way of building applications. It's there on the server side, and then you optimize for those cases which actually are offline required. I think that most of them are related to collecting of data somehow. So you collect the data and then store it back to the server, but most of the application and most of the data is always on a centralized storage. Overall, it is about controlling those device features, those small device features from the server-side API. So you have Java API for everything there on the device side you need. This is not always enough, so we are still running in browser there. You have to remember that. So we are running a web browser in the mobile device and using that to render the application. So there are some features that are not available there yet, at least. So what people then use is Apache Cordova or PhoneGap to actually bind more to the device features. You can get the accelerometer. Okay, the camera is actually quite good already in the web APIs, so you can take a picture and send a picture to the client from the client without any native integration. But if you need to know more about, for example, the contacts is a typical thing. You need to list the contacts from the phone. But you can get much more. You can like device information, device events like going to sleep and stuff like this with this approach. So if you're really building something to the specific device, this is a good way. Yeah, otherwise, when is this kind of server-driven approach, when is this good? So I was thinking that I take a small case study here, so to just just to explain a little bit how others are using. So a shoemaker or something else. So I think Puma is a German company. Yeah, I think so. They made a product portfolio management application in history. So what they had there, they had an existing process. They want to have a technological renewal there. So I don't actually have a picture of this, so you have to imagine this. So they are providing shoes and other clothing to retail stores. So the retail stores get to choose what they want on their collections for next summer, for example. And they were collecting these on paper. So they were sending out examples and showing these are the ways, and you can just write down, I want three pieces of these, or I want to have this for the next summer. You can guess that it's not very nice way to organize this because you get a bunch of paper you have to go through and then enter to the system and then actually provide the stuff to the clients. And they had an idea there, so they had the data storage, they have everything there already in place, so they have the back-end systems, the back office systems that were already there, so they wanted to open up it a little bit. So instead of using the pen and paper approach, so writing down what you want for the next thing, they were thinking that these people already have like good technology there, it's just misused these days. So it could be done better way, so we can utilize that a little bit more. And this is what they came up with. So they chose the Vaadin TouchKit there because it was kind of easy option for them. They had the servers there in place, they had the data there in place. They didn't want to go to any app stores or anything like that. They just wanted to reach their clients directly. So it's more like an extranet application to a business. And it's much more nicer way. So they can actually browse through the catalog and find their favorite items there, much like a swipe and like style of application, and get more details of the application or the apparel they are choosing there. And also they get real-time statistics. So if they kind of find out that okay, the neighboring stores, they are getting a lot of that stuff, maybe that's out next summer, I should be getting the same stuff. So they were really getting new features out of the applications. And overall, I think that this is very typical, very characteristic case where Vaadin TouchKit would be a good case. So the cross-device support, you might need it. So you want to support not only iPhones but also Android phones and Windows phones. You have the backend already there in place, so you are not re-implementing anything for the mobile application itself. You are just reusing the old stuff. Maybe you even cannot deliver to app stores, or it's too complicated, so you just wanted to have a web application instead of the native application there. And furthermore, you want to create a mobile application very quickly on top of your other applications. Yeah, so let's stop on quickly. So I was thinking to show a little bit how the TouchKit coding actually works. So you're all coders, right? You know Java code? Yeah, me too, a little bit. Let's take a look if I can. This time I have a failsafe setup, so I can git reset if I fail. That's good. Yeah, so I was speaking about this. So if you have there a backend already in place, in this case, it's a CRM application. So there is an existing CRM application already in place, already in use in company, and you need a mobile user interface for that one. Rather quickly, please. We are in a hurry, so we have to have it tomorrow, perhaps. If you take a look at the backend, it's JPA-based backend in this case. These are normal photos, basically. So you have account cluster or contact with it. I think the most typical one. And but nothing fancy there. This is just the basic Java EE stuff. Then what you have, you can create there a TouchKit application along with it. So depending on those backend APIs. So I have here CRM UI. This is now the mobile application. Actually, I have the application here implemented, but I think it's better that if we take away all the implementation and start from scratch. So let's clear everything. So now we have empty UI. And UI is something that in Vaadin generic, that's something that you see there, so it's where the application will be there. There is an init function which fills the UI first, and we have here servlet extending the TouchKit servlet, adding some special features there, so you can get a grip of those device features. And here I have because this is not the real CRM, I'm sorry. The backend is actually filled with mockup data at this point, so I'm ensuring that it's available there, so generating is running there. Let's take a look at the browser. So the application is empty. Who might have guessed? Let's take a look at it here. So same thing. So this is now iOS simulator here running running a browser here. Right. So what would you do here? So you probably want to have some kind of navigation, some kind of browsing interface for the CRM. So let's start yellow there. Let's create an account list view. We don't have one, so we are going to create one. And there is, in TouchKit, there is API for navigation. So there is a navigation manager, and navigation bar, and navigation view. And we are going to create a navigation view out of this one. So now we have the account list view as a navigation view. And it's not showing anywhere yet, so we need a navigation manager. And we can now set this current component there in navigation. Sounds simple enough. We are actually not showing anything yet, so we have to put this on screen. So we set the content of the UI to be something. So in this case, it will be the navigation manager. So this creates. We can already try this out. So let's check it out. So component cannot sit inside of its own content. So we were actually adding a wrong one there. So we are adding this one. No, so we have a little less empty screen. We have a bar here. Right. Let's continue with the account list view. So what you want to have here is, let's see, okay. No suggested developer. Create a constructor. So we can get the navigation bar handle from the navigation view and set the caption to something meaningful, for example. So we can. So this will be the account. And then what? Maybe a list of this. So let's create a list here. So list of, or let's take account list instead. Again, a new class. This time I'm going to create this as an inner class here, so not floating. So creating a class here and extending Vaadin table component. You know this? You've seen the table demo in Keynote today? Oh, that was a great one. So that's not quite the same. That's more fancier. And we have a constructor here. So now we have account list, and let's put that as content to the account view. So and try it out. See what do we have here? Well, nothing else than the title there. But maybe we add some data. So in Vaadin, there is add-on for combining JPA object directly to Vaadin applications. It's called JPA container. Who knew this already? A couple of, yeah. Okay, so you probably have more experience on this one than I do, but you can create Vaadin compatible or wrap them in the Vaadin compatible applications, all the JPA object on the fly. So we want to have accounts here. So this comes from the data package. And let's take it so that backend persistent unit. So that's a typo. Why didn't you say anything? So we have a data here. Let's store that to somewhere. And let's show that to somewhere. So let's put this as data source to the Vaadin table here, or the account list here. Something like this. Do we have something here already? Yes, we have. So now it's actually listing the data from the backend, from the database to the table here. Let's take a look at here on a mobile device how it looks like. So not quite comfortable yet. So it works here, but not very nice. It's quite big. I think we can use the all size for this table, so we take all the size which is available, and we should probably hide some of the columns there. So the visible columns there, and what do we have there in account? So we can check that. We have name and sales would be probably correct. So let's put name there and sales there, and try it again. Something like this. So we have now sortable table here bound to the backend, showing those fields. But let's continue. So you want some interaction, right? So we add an item click listener here. So when we are clicking something, we get an event here on the server side. So when the user actually clicks something, you can react to that. And what do we do here? So we get the navigation manager and navigate to something else. So let's create a new account view here. We don't have any account view, to just create the class. Remove that one and use the view as a basis. So we are extending the same classes once more, so these are views that can be navigated. Let's leave it for a while. And what we pass here, so something was clicked, so we pass that event there, so maybe we've stored it here. So we have account, which we can get from the data. So data get item and use the event get item ID. So whichever was selected there. Okay, that has to be final, and that can be local. So we pass that A as parameter to the account view. So show this account, please. I made it this way. I don't know how familiar you are with the Vaadin APIs, but I'm not taking it from the table directly, because otherwise I would get just a generic item object. Now I'm get actually a typecasted object to the account, so it's easier to handle with that. And we don't have constructor for this one, so we create one. And here we can also get the navigation bar and set the caption. Let's take something from account. So account get entity get name. Try that one and see what happens here. So if we choose something here, it navigates to the account view, and you can navigate back to the. So very typical mobile navigation model thing here. Feels much more comfortable here on the mobile device, so you find the buttons there in place. What you're actually seeing here, this is the new theme for Vaadin TouchKit 4. It is not looking like iOS anymore. So there was the old theme was very much like iOS lookalike, but that was uncomfortable on Android devices already. And if you think of the Windows devices, it will be even more uncomfortable. So we decided to opt for a single look and feel for every Vaadin application that you run. Of course you can theme this, so you can get back to the iOS lookalike theme if you want to, or even go more in the Windows direction, but that's up to the theming guys then. So the default theme is more, how would I say, vendor agnostic. Yes, so we have account view. We want to show something here. So how do you show something in Vaadin applications? Does anyone know? Good ways? No one using Vaadin. It's field group. So we are using the item here as to create a field group. And we bind this field group, we bind it to an object. So this is basically a UI object where to bind the data to. So let's create here a form. I think I would like this, a new form. So I create a new class here for data presentation. And we extend here vertical component group. So this is once again from the TouchKit package. So you get more familiar grouping of items there. And that's a local variable and showing it there. And actually we need to set content also to form like this. And there is nothing here yet, so we need to add it here. So what do we add here? So there's an easy way to find out what you want to present there. Let's take a look at the account. So maybe if we pick up, let's pick off everything. So I'll put them here and get rid of most of the stuff. So we only have the 3 options. So this is string. Probably a good place to present this would be the text field. So this is normal Vaadin text field. You can use all the Vaadin components here the same way as you would use in any Vaadin application. So they are compatible with the Vaadin TouchKit. Let's create another text field for that one. And for this, the switch is probably more comfortable on mobile devices. No, not text field, switch I was talking about. And we need to add these to something else, something still to make them. So we add the name, we add the sales, and then we add the active, and making them visible. Let's take a look. Are they visible? So yeah, so now we have here view to see more about the, oh, where is the, that's because we didn't have any, where is our, I think it's not visible because my browser is too wide, so. So you can see the switch there. So this is one of the TouchKit components. So it's much more comfortable using this with your hand than the checkbox. You can use the checkbox also, but right. Seems that I'm being a little bit slow here coding in front of you, so I take a shortcut if it's okay for you. So let's do it like this. Look at this.
So productive with Vaadin.
I posted, not important. Wow, how much can you code in 20 minutes? So I added here a filtering, so now I can filter out the stuff. So if I want to have some kind of PA filtering, I can hit that. And actually this is, again, saving the stuff also, so we can actually see that it's going back to the backend. So I can show you a little bit about the code. So it wasn't too much of code, but just to save the time here. So that was account view, which we were talking about later. So there is a save button here, and let's resize that a little bit. So what we are doing there, we are setting the right component in navigation bar to save button. So we are adding a button there in the top right corner to save. And what we do there is we just commit the field group. Here it's more, I guess, buffered, so it's buffering every day. It's not pushing back to the JPA object yet. And the commit is when it actually goes there. And rest is what you saw there earlier, so it's not too much changes there. Also, what I added here Let's take a look at the mobile device for a while. So I added here 2 tabs here. So you can have that kind of navigation. This is also very typical in mobile devices. You have tabs downstairs, and then you have the kind of next, forever navigation on the top. So and there is a pipeline chart there showing the state of the pipeline. So I made basically that was also, I could have cheated here on live also, because this code I actually got from going to demo charts, and if this network is working, so you can see that there are lots of ready-made samples here, so you can find the source code from here. So you can copy-paste. If you need a certain kind of chart, you can just copy-paste the code here. Only thing I did here, I generated the pipeline from the backend, so I took the data actually from the CRM backend instead of. Now this is where. Now I should be ready. Okay, now let's go back to the presentation. So you get an idea how this works. So it's much like a Vaadin programming. There are a few different components you use. It's basically the navigation is different. You wouldn't use that kind of navigation on a desktop device. So that's for mobile optimization. If you have existing Vaadin application, you can make that a TouchKit application by using an add-on. So Vaadin TouchKit is only an add-on to Vaadin framework itself, so you can add the dependency there in your POM file. But the much typical way is to use the ArchStart, starting from scratch. You create a new ArchStart TouchKit project and use that to create to bootstrap the stuff. You could take a look at the Parky demo. Who saw the Parky demo there in the previous session? Most of you were in the previous sessions. So the source code is there on the line, so take a look at that. It's very good to kind of give you an idea how to create different patterns in Vaadin TouchKit. And also I will be putting this code online at some point, so I will publish it in GitHub. Best resource is of course vaadin.com/TouchKit, and it's available there for download. There are 2 different licensing options. So there's the open source version, which is a GPL license, but if that's not suitable for your business purposes, so maybe you want to use the commercial license instead. Yeah, so I can stop here, or I can answer to your questions if you have any. There is one question at least there back there.
Thanks. Well, you were mentioning PhoneGap, so I was asking me if there's any possibility to wrap a Vaadin TouchKit app with PhoneGap and ship it as a native app to your platform.
Yeah, that's completely possible, and I've seen a couple of applications made with this. I'm not sure whether they actually made it to any app stores, but the functionality is there. So you can wrap into a web view and run it there and get more access to the device features that way. And then it's kind of installable application also.
Okay, so is there any documentation about that?
I think there should be some tutorial at least about the topic. So we can check it out later on if you like, so if you can find it online.
Okay, maybe one more very particular question. I saw that you were doing something in your slides, like asking window dot client size or something. Is that also from the TouchKit package, or can you also do that in your Vaadin application?
Which one was it?
It was one of the first slides. I don't know. It was. I think you were asking for the dimension of the browser size.
Yeah.
Is that TouchKit only, or is that?
You can get these informations from the browser object, which is also in Vaadin. So you can get the screen size and the browser window size from the. It's actually page object, and there you get the browser object. So it's static function there.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. Is it possible to use the switch component in a regular Vaadin application?
I think it should be possible. It specifically wasn't designed for that one, but I think it should be possible. So it's mostly about styling the stuff so it fits to the rest of the application. Yeah.
Can I have 2 teams in Vaadin?
2 teams.
Yeah, and switching it between mobile and desktop?
Yeah, so that's very typical. Take a look at the parking sample for that. There is actually how to do that. So you would create a servlet, implement the servlet so that you specify a UI provider there. So you can have different UIs for different devices, for example. And normally you don't do every device different, but you do desktop application different and the mobile application different. And this is very typical. Actually, I think all the demos on Vaadin.com, they use the same logic. So if you go with the desktop browser, you get a notification that this is a mobile application. Please go to with your mobile phone or something else. So basically the same concept.
I'd like to know where the server-side state lives. It lives in the session?
Sorry, the server-side state?
Yeah, the server-side state. Which
that lives in a session. Yeah.
Okay, and do you have a way to plug it somewhere else?
What do you mean someone else? Somewhere else? To database or?
Yeah, maybe.
I haven't seen it in practice, so in production anyway. It's kind of proof of concept styles of doing that, yes. And sticky sessions is mostly what people use there on the server side to kind of optimize it. So
we will to get rid of that. So.
You want to get rid of it. I know that there are kind of setups where you have forced replication of session to every server, and it works there. So there is no, but you are just replicating the whole session state here. I must say that don't worry about the UI objects so much when replicating the session. They are not too big. They are actually very lightweight. But it's easy to bind a lot of data to those UI components, as you see that it's 2 lines of code and I have gigabyte there. So you want to avoid that. So when actually replicating those sessions.
Okay, thank you.
I guess no more questions. Okay, I say thank you and continue. Have a good conference here.